I'm here with Broadway actor James A. Pierce III. Let's talk a little bit about when you first decided you wanted to become an actor and what steps you took in order to fulfill your goal.
Well, I didn't know I wanted to be an actor. I knew I wanted to be on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So as a kid, I was in love with Michael Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
and as a young boy, I was in the Philadelphia Boys Choir in Philly. Born and raised in Philly, so I was in the Boys Choir at age 11.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first soprano. Holla Sopranos. Traveled the world with the Boys Choir and went to high school for performing arts, and it's called Kappa in Philly. I went to the high school for performing arts, and I was a vocal major. And we moved into a new building. The mayor came, was a ribbon cutting, and then dancers came out and did this beautiful piece to Celebration by Kool and the Gang.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Kool and the Gang? Yeah, Kool and the Gang.
Yep.
And I just remember them doing these like 16 like hinge kicks, and I remember wanting to just do that. So I ended up that summer auditioning. Well, no, that fall I ended up auditioning for the musical we did, Once Upon a Mattress,
Mm-hmm.
and I was I booked it as a principal dancer / understudy for the jester. And I remember telling the director, like, please, I'm not a good dancer, like I don't have any technique. And she said to me, if you're not gonna dance, then you're not gonna be in the play. And so that started my love for dance.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going to Flodenco in Philly, the children's program that summer. And then I ended up dancing at Wissahickon Dance Academy and getting all my classical training there. So I was singing at school, dancing outside of school, doing the musicals. I did the musicals, I think, every year, almost every year.
Mm-hmm.
And then my junior year, I became a double major. I was voice and dance. And then I went to college. I remember my voice teacher was so mad at me because I was auditioning for school for dance and not music. Like Julie, all the big ones, Juilliard, Fordham,
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina School of the Arts, University of the Arts, and NYU. And I got into all of them except for Juilliard. I got put on the waiting list for Juilliard, and ended up going to Ailey Fordham BFA program,
Mm-hmm.
and loved it. It's a very hard program. Not everyone can survive it. There's a lot of academics and a lot of dance. So you're going from 8:30 to 9 o'clock at night, and then while I was at school, the beginning of my sophomore year, I went with a friend to an audition for The Lion King, the second national tour. They were starting a second national tour.
Mm-hmm.
This is back in the day when auditions for Broadway shows were lines around the block, around the corner. So
Yeah.
this was the new 42nd Street Studios. I think they just opened up, and the line was around all the way around Broadway from that. It was crazy. So I went to the audition because my friend went. I didn't have a resume. I was a freshman, like just finished my freshman year in college. So
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I here? I'm just gonna go. So my friend went to the audition with they took a Polaroid picture of me. Didn't have a song to sing, so they had me sing Amazing Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out a week later that I booked it. This is the second national tour. I still have the contract somewhere here. And I saw that contract and saw all those dollars, like all those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, I can help my mom pay for school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I saw. I was like, oh, cool. I can maybe leave school for a year, do this, send her every other check, because also there's per diem involved, so
Right.
which is not taxed. I was like, oh, I can send her every other check, and then I can help her pay for school because I have two sisters. They're
Mm-hmm.
also going to school. So Ailey didn't like that. Miss Jefferson, one of my mentors, she passed away years ago. She said to me, she goes, this is great, but you don't do Lion King first. You do Ailey first, then Lion King. And I said to her, I said, well, my mother has 3 kids and we're all going to college. So
Mhm.
if you can give me a full scholarship, then I'll stay. So then they found money from Jerome Robbins Scholars
Wow.
and paid my way through the last 3 years of my schooling at Fordham.
That's awesome.
Jerome Robbins
Wow.
Scholar, yeah. And this is why I always encourage people, know your worth. I was 19 years old, didn't have any credits,
Mhm.
didn't have, I mean, they could have said, okay, well, bye. They could have said, well, sorry, we don't have the money for you.
Yeah.
But they, I was like, no, this is important to me. I have this offer that can help me finish school and also help my family,
Mhm.
my sisters, and my mother. And yeah, so
Do you ever wonder what would have happened had you gone the other way?
I thought about it, and I'm so happy I did not.
Mhm.
The career that I've had has been so unique, and I cannot imagine having. I never in a million years thought I would have the career that I've had now.
Mhm.
I went from, you know, not being a dancer to dancing with some of the most major companies in the world. I was in Martha Graham, I was in AE2, I was in Ballet Hispanico, Ballet Met Columbus. I was dancing with Complexions. Complexions was my first major dance company, and then I was guesting with people, doing guest artist things here and there. The last dance company I danced with was Martha Graham, and I was there during the time of the recession, and so there was a lot of money lost, and I loved it was the hardest company I've ever danced for, but the most fulfilling artistically. I learned because Martha, she choreographed all those Greek ballets, so playing doing like Clytemnestra or Cave of the Heart, like all these or Night Journey, all these beautiful. It was like doing theater, and at the time there wasn't that much work, so only certain company members were able to get work. So when I got offered this contract with On the Town Paper Mill Playhouse, it was a contract. It was an equity contract. It was gonna offer me insurance, and it was how many weeks? Like maybe I think that contract is like 8 weeks, I believe. It's something like that. So that was my first equity job, and I was doing On the Town, which is a great musical, and it's dance heavy. Yeah. Worked with Patty Colombo, who's awesome, and got my first taste of like doing musical theater, because I did musical theater in high school, but I wasn't really doing it as an adult. Right. And right after that, I got a phone call from Broadway, Lion King. Now mind you, I turned down Rewind. While I was in the Graham Company, Lion King, the tour called me twice. This is 8 years after I turned it down, because I got the full scholarship. They called me while I was in Cyprus with the company. And I said, I can't, I'm on tour and I'm about to go to China. So I can't, but keep me in mind. And then a few months later, they were in Spokane, Washington, and they called me. And I was rehearsing at Ballet Hispanico with the Graham Company, and I was getting ready to go to Paris for the first time, and I was doing a principal role. So I was like, oh, thank you, but I really love what I'm doing right now, so. Yeah. And then the work died. There was no more work after that. So, and then I'm watching my friends, my friends getting jobs, my friends getting jobs, the tour and everything. I'm like, oh. And I remember doing On the Town, and one of the actors said to me, James, why aren't you in Lion King? And I was like, man, I turned that job down 3 times, so it's never gonna happen. Yeah. A month later, they called me for Broadway, and I remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, should I take it? She goes, boy, it's Broadway. You want to be on Broadway? I was like, yeah, because at the time I was going to do Maurice Hines' Sophisticated Ladies at the Arena Stage, and I literally got the contract the same day that I got the phone call from Lion King, and that's a good contract, Arena Stage, right. And working with Maurice Hines, I was looking forward. I was tapping every day. I was getting my skills together, and that's when I started Lion King, and I was there for 7 years. Wow. 7 years there, and the first 6 months. After 6 months, I was like, okay, what's next?
And you say 6.5 more years.
So I remember saying to myself, I said I would do this for 3 years, and then I'll see what happens. I'll figure out what's next. What's next for me, because I've achieved this dream of being on Broadway. I'm 26 years old, and what else is there for me? I don't want to be someone who is complacent. I want to make sure that I'm constantly being fed artistically, and I want to see there are other gifts that I have. So I started going to acting classes. A lot of them were terrible acting classes, and also people would find out that I was in the Lion King, and sometimes the teachers would put me on a pedestal, and it became about me. Yeah. And I didn't like that, so right. I wouldn't tell anyone outside of the Lion King or anyone that wasn't in the business. If I met someone at a bar or in a class, I didn't tell anyone what I did for a living. Like even when I was doing at UCB, I wouldn't tell anybody what I did for a living, because it changed the way that they would talk to you or how they would treat you. Right. And so in 2012. I came across this guy, Anthony Abeson, and I said to him, I just want to know if I'm a good actor. If I'm not, I said, someone can give me a combination, can give me a dance combination, and I can make that my own. I want to be able to do that with the words on the page. Can I, if I suck, if I'm terrible, I'm like, please just let me know if this is not the career for me. so I can not waste any more money
Yeah.
on classes. And he's like a father to me now, Anthony Apeson. I see him quite a few times. I mean, whenever I'm doing any projects, whether it's auditions or like even with the play, I go through every single scene with him before rehearsals.
It's good to have a mentor like that.
Yes, he's excellent. He has a book as well that he wrote that came out 2 years ago, and that's how I fell. That's when I fell in love with acting. So I've been focusing on TV and film, and I've been focusing while I was in Lion King. I actually when I was at Lion King, I was like, I'm done with Broadway. I don't want to do this anymore because it wasn't feeding my soul. And one of my agents, well, I didn't know he was an agent. He's a friend of mine, but he said, "Oh, well, what are you trying?" I was trying to find an agent, trying to find a legit agent so I can get some TV and film appointments. And I was going through all these different agents and getting so close, but not getting hired, or not hired, but what do you say? What do you say?
Booked?
Booked?
Yeah, booked.
Or yeah. And so my friend, he said to me, he goes, "Well, my friend has an agency. She can handle the TV and film." He goes, "Is there any Broadway? They on Broadway because I handle theater. Is there anything coming to Broadway that you want to be in?" And I said to him, "The only show I want to be in that's coming to Broadway is Anastasia. But when they had auditions for Hartford, I got cut." And I think it was because of my height. I was too short. And he says, "Okay, let's see what we can do." Now, I worked with Lynn and Steven on Little Dancer a few years back, and loved it. It's now called Marie. That show's now called Marie, which is probably coming to Broadway very soon. That was one of the best experiences of my life. I remember crying the last, like when we closed at the Kennedy Center. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah.
I loved that show. I loved that whole experience. Again, the only black guy in the show did not have the kind of issues that I was dealing with at Anastasia. But yeah, so I wanted to be Anastasia. It's part of my childhood. I was in love with the singer Aaliyah. I remember when she performed Journey to the Past for the Oscars. She died on August 25th. The next day was when I moved into my dorm, and I was crying like a baby. I remember crying like a baby because I loved Aaliyah. So when I heard that Anastasia was coming, actually when I was doing Little Dancer in DC, they did the film about Aaliyah on Lifetime, and I watched it. It wasn't a good film, but I watched it. I watched it at the Kennedy Center in between shows, because that's how much I love Aaliyah. So I knew I wanted to be a part of Anastasia in any way, and I was like, I don't know. And that was my first audition with my agent, and booked it, and yeah, and that's how I got there. I think, yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
Who needs? I didn't even need to ask questions. This is a great interview for me. Now, we'll get into Anastasia in part 2 of this interview. But you're currently working on a show that's going to be going up this coming week.
Next Thursday. So I'm doing a show called Wafrika 123 by Nick Hadikwa Moluko. They'll be in town on Monday, so I'll get to meet them for the first time.
Which will be today for those who are watching.
Today. So so it's a really intense story. One, I'm excited. I think it's an important story. I played Chief Odiambo. Chief has a daughter who is a lesbian, but also believes that they are a man, and is also in love with an American woman. And the villagers and the elders are giving Chief this pressure to circumcise his daughter. And his daughter is in her 20s, late 20s, early 30s. And usually women are circumcised between the ages of 12 and 14. But there's a famine, and the villagers, people in the village believe that this famine was brought on by this gay relationship, by the fact that this character, Owino, has not been circumcised, which is our tradition. So it's really powerful. It's really some really powerful material. So I hope people will come and check it out.
And you're also working on a new series as well, is that correct?
Yes, Bubbly Brown Sugar. We shot 9 episodes last fall, and we screened 2 episodes for our red carpet screening about 3 weeks ago, something like that. About 3 weeks ago, and we received a lot of positive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
We've just been accepted into the Hip Hop Film Festival.
Nice.
So that takes place in August. We've been submitting the show to many festivals, so fingers crossed.
What's it about?
It's about, okay, so there's 2 stories. So it's about these 2 people, Jewel and Caleb, and they both have these dreams about, they never met, but they're having these intimate, passionate, sexual dreams about one another, and they know that the one is out there for them, but they just haven't met yet. And so you see 2 different stories being told at the same time, and you're rooting for them to somehow get connected in some way. And there's like 6 degrees of separation from all the characters.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there are ways where, like, you know, sometimes one of Caleb's best friends ends up talking to Jewel, and Jewel has no idea that her soulmate is best friends with, what's the character's name? Josiah.
Those are like some of the most interesting shows. There was a television series on CBS All Access called Tell Me a Story, which was the same. Yeah. You didn't realize it at first, but by the end of the series, everyone was connected in some way. Yeah. And it's very exciting to watch it play out.
Yeah, it's we watched the first 2 episodes at their screening, and I get nervous because you know, watching yourself on, and around all these people. But the response was very positive. Everyone looked good. It's I'm excited for it, and made some great connections from that. Awesome. But I play Kwame. I'm Jewel's like right-hand man. I'm a best friend. Big brother. I love Jewel, like probably more than she loves herself. I would do anything for her, and secretly in love with her. There are a lot of characters. I would make fun because I would say it's like Game of Thrones, because there are a lot of actors in the show who I met at the table read and never saw again until until the red carpet, because there's that many characters. Wow. Like there are 6 of us who were like the main leads, but there are a lot of B and C stories and really, really interesting stories being told. So it's not just about Jewel and Caleb. There's so many different stories being told, and it's gonna. I mean, Tamala Baldwin's the creator and writer of it. I hope you get to interview her at some point, because she's a wonderful woman and a good friend of mine now. I'm really excited for the future of it. I know we're shopping it around, looking for ways to distribute it, and we'll see what happens.
That's one of the great things about being an actor today, is there's so many avenues of distribution. Yeah. So it's an exciting time for people creating their own content. Well, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to see it. And for everybody who is interested and wants to hear what is going on with James and his problem and his situation from Anastasia, part 2 of the video will be right below this.